So today we're going to be attaching our eyelets to our rod. And so the first thing you want to do is to go online and find a guide spacing chart. And so this is just a chart that will show you how far apart you should actually put your guides from each other, because this will change how the rod acts, because you want them spaced out correctly so it works better. So then once you get your guide spacing chart and you find out what works for the rod type you have and for the amount of eyelets you have, you're just going to start marking out the distances. And most guide charts are measured from the tip to the base. And so if it says 2 3/4 inch, that's 2 3/4 of inches away from the tip. So you just mark them all out, and then that'll give you a spot to place your eyelets for the next step. So now we're going to be setting up our hand wrapper. And so this is a CRB brand hand wrapper. So the first thing you want to do, you're going to remove that from the little thing, because that's where the thread will go. And the way I like to set it up is to have the thread coming out the bottom. So you slide that on, and then you slide the big white washer on. And next you slide the big metal washer. And then there's a spring, and you want to slide the spring on with the wide end facing down, the little washer, and then you put on the wing nut. You don't want to put some tension down on it, kind of like you're setting a drag. You want to have a little bit of tension on the spring, but not too much. So you kind of want it to take a little bit of resistance to pull the string, but you want to still be able to do it easily. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put that line through the little eyelet down there, and put the line through the eyelet up top that's labeled 2. And say there's a little rod right there. It's called a tension rod, and that'll actually help keep tension on the rod or on the line while you're wrapping. It makes it easier. And you go through the middle little eyelet or the little J hook, and then finally through the last one, the black one. And so now you're going to be setting up the rod on the hand wrapper. And so I usually like to start from the base or from the furthest back eyelid. And so you're going to want to put the rod on there in the little grooves. You're going to want to line it up the first mark for the eyelet right in the center. And then you're going to put the little hair tie things down to actually keep the rod from slipping out. So now we're going to be taping the eyelet to our blank. And so we're taping it down because it makes it a whole lot easier to start wrapping. And it makes it easier if you have a thin piece of tape. So if you have wide tape, you actually just use a razor blade to cut it nice and short. And you want a thin piece of tape because you want part of the foot of the eyelet to actually be exposed, not under the tape, but you still want to have enough tape to keep it set there firm. And so you will just align the eyelet right over the white mark, and then you'll tape it down and leaving the end of the foot exposed. So now we're actually going to be attaching the eyelet and putting the thread on there. So the first thing you want to do is take the thread and wrap it around about 3 times tightly just before the foot starts, and then you put one finger on the thread and start spinning it, and while you spin it you'll want it to go over the tag end you have from the thread. Then once it goes over that at least 3 or 4 times, I like to do probably about 5 or 6, you actually you can use a razor blade and cut the excess off, and then you can just keep going all the way until you get to about 5 wraps from the end. And sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to get up the foot, but once you get up the foot, it's pretty smooth going. So now what we're going to be doing is finishing the wrap. So you're going to want to grab a thread of contrasting color. You're going to want to make a loop with it, and you're going to want to place it underneath the line, underneath the thread. And you're going to have it on the opposite side of the blank from the eyelet. And so when you slide it in there, then you have the loop end facing the direction of the wrap. Then you're going to wrap it about 5 more times up the loop. And you're going to put a finger on the wrap, cut the main thread, and put that through the loop. And you're going to grab the 2 tag ends and pull them back. And this will actually bring your line underneath itself and hold it down using friction. And then you are actually done with your first wrap. And then you'll just repeat that step for each eyelet, but they'll begin a little bit smaller towards the top. So you want to cut the tape smaller each time.